Yes, hello everyone. I would like to welcome you to this presentation. This is our second presentation. I would thank all those that were able to watch our first presentation on this YouTube channel. Uh, thank you for the likes and the comments. They were well received. Today, we are going to be discussing building collapses, and the title of our presentation today is Understanding Building Collapses in Kampala. My name is Chigozi Joseph. I'm a transport planner. I work with Prom Consultants Limited. I also am a champion for capacity development for the FIDIC Future Leaders Forum under the Uganda Association of Consulting Engineers. Without further ado, let's go ahead to our presentation today. Before we start, please don't forget to click the like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel to get more of these technical talks and discussions and notifications when we upload new videos. So what do we know? When it comes to global urban problems, we can safely say that the explosive growth and concentration of people in urban areas is usually a primary point of reference in all discussion relating to global urban problems. Basically, most of the urban problems that we face in our cities and our towns are usually related to the explosive growth and concentration of people in these areas. By 2050, we expect that 2.5 billion people would be joining the world's urban population. This is a big number. What we know is that Uganda currently is not prone to extreme natural disasters like earthquakes and hurricanes. However, we are still seeing building collapses, which are common and quite honestly a tragic occurrence in our cities and in our towns. Countless lives are lost when these buildings collapse. A lot of money is lost when these buildings collapse. For all believers, under the book of Ecclesiastes, that is chapter 1, verse 9, it is stated that there is nothing new under the sun. And I would like to state that building collapses are not new. They have happened since prehistoric times. However, this phenomenon of building collapses still remains heavily under-researched. Between 2004 and 2008 alone in Kampala, 54 deaths and 122 injuries were recorded as to have resulted from collapsing buildings. Let me take you back a little bit and let us look at the history of building collapses in Kampala. 2004, a 5-story building in Kampala kills 11. Cause of collapse: uncontrolled speedy construction, poor workmanship, and absence of professional site supervision. 2008, a retaining wall collapses along Lumumba Avenue. Causes of collapse: irregular change in design of the structure and failure to protect excavation works. This particular wall killed 7. 2013 July, a building under renovation kills 4. Cause of collapse: delayed action by the city authority. It is reported that the residents saw signs of weakness in this building as it was being renovated, reported to the authority, and there was delayed action until it came down. April 2016, a building in Makerere kills 4. Reported cause of collapse: location in a road reserve. The building was wrongly located. The plans for the building were due for assessment and had not been submitted to the authority. Third, there was non-compliance to the physical planning laws. May 2018, a building in Buziga luckily doesn't kill anyone, however collapsed. And the reported cause of collapse was a high construction speed and negligence by the engineer, so they say. In June 2019, a perimeter wall for a school in Kampala kills 6 street children. Reported cause of collapse was heavy rains. In October 2019, a slope failure at a building in Bakuli kills 2. And the reported cause of collapse is unsafe excavation methods. This is similar to a building that collapsed, or to a retaining wall that collapsed in October 2008. So we're having, the key to note here is that the reasons why we have these collapses are not different, and they keep happening one year after another. So when we move to April 2020, we had a building in Lokuli Machindi that killed 20 people. 20 lives were lost. And the reported cause of collapse, absence of a supervising engineer, non-adherence to technical standards, and use of substandard material. In the same month, we had a beach hotel in Entebbe collapsing. Luckily, no one was killed. But the reported cause of collapse was bypass of building regulations. May 2020, a building in Kansanga collapses, killing 20. What is the reported cause of collapse? Was absence of an approved plan, over-economization of materials, bureaucracy involved in demolishing illegal structures. This structure had been identified as illegal, key to note. However, because of the bureaucracy involved in having this structure demolished, the building came down before it could be taken down, and 10 people lost their lives at that. And also failure of the building owner to abide by the advice of the building authorities. One key thing to note from the history that has just been presented is that the building collapses have been occurring year after year for reasons that are more or less similar. Tears, lives lost, money lost because of the same recurrent reasons. The picture you see on your screen is a collection of some of the snapshots and photographs that were taken from these collapsed building sites. It is not a pleasant sight to look at. And we as technical professionals that are working in this area, this is not a nice sight to look at. And we should all be working towards ensuring safe structures for the population that we serve. So is the problem legislation? I don't think so at the moment. Why? Because we have the Building Control Act that came into force on October 2nd, 2013. Now, the purpose of this act was to harmonize and amend the law relating to erection of buildings as a way to ensure decent, safe, and planned building structures. The Act also institutes the Building Review Board and the building committees to execute functions in line with the objectives of the Act. As a way of controlling building operation, this Act prohibits construction without a building permit and empowers these building committees to formally stop any building operation if found not in line with the building standards or code of execution. The Act regards punishable by law any act regarding omission, commission, and negligence of an individual that brings about a building accident. So the problem is not legislation. So what is the problem? Now, our cities, especially in the developing countries, are filling up quickly and are undergoing remarkable urban transformation. Now, this transformation partly is coming because we are having a heavy influx of people into our cities. We're having, in Africa alone, we're having about 40% of Africa's population now living in the cities. And then you also have this section of the population that actually moves from the residential rural communities into the cities to work, and then it goes back. So this, during a work day, the percentage of the population that uses the cities is actually higher than the 40% presented here. Now, the demand for buildings is amplified by this state of affairs. In cities, the stratospheric upsurge in demand for building space has heavily led to the erection of structures without sufficient focus on safety because the demand is high. As we try to meet the demand, we are focusing less on the safety of the structures that we're putting up. As such, on many building sites, there is use of substandard material, there is cutback on required inputs, low-skilled labor, and some buildings are sited in unsafe locations. We've just looked at a building that collapsed along Makerere because with one of the reasons reported as being located in an actual road reserve. Now, this pressure also encourages existing buildings to be hastily converted into uses they were not designed for. We are seeing a lot of buildings in the originally residential suburbs or areas being converted into commercial use, or converting a residential house into a factory or a printing house. This pressure is coming from the heavy demand for building space in our urban areas. To discuss further, the cost of urban land is extremely high. Then you realize that building owners, after investing heavily in acquiring the land where to put their structures, you find that they have to, they limit their capacity to invest in quality building materials and technical personnel. You can all agree with me that buying a small plot in the city is very expensive. So after making this heavy investment, building owners are compelled to try to save and squeeze their budget when it comes to constructing so that they can meet their investment targets. And there, because of this, you'll find there is also a widespread involvement of low-skilled and unqualified personnel in the construction business. Because the amount of money now the building owners have available to invest in the qualified personnel is less, some of the qualified personnel will not be able to work for this money. So these building owners will go for the cheaper, low-skilled, unqualified people to actually work on their buildings. Further, there is actually a shortage of competent engineers. Probably this is why they regard their services as expensive. However, in Africa, one engineer alone serves about 13,000 people. Compared to our friends in the developed world, where we have one engineer serving 100 to 300 people. So there is need for more engineers. That means we need to train more engineers and other built environment practitioners and professionals so that we can bring down this number, the 13,000, so that we have all people be able to access the services of a qualified building professional. So one of the other reasons why we have unsafe buildings is the failure to customize our design codes that we adopt from the developed world for our local conditions. We have adopted millions of design standards, but we have not invested in customizing these design standards for our local conditions. For that reasons, because we have that difference in soils, in climate between us here in Africa, in Kampala and in Uganda in particular, from the people in the Netherlands or the United Kingdom, their design codes have to be adopted for our local conditions to be able to make them practical. Therefore, a lot of research is needed to see that as we go on adopting standards, these standards are recustomized for our local conditions. Yes, we have building regulations, and the building regulations are present. However, corruption and political interference are undermining the efforts of the authorities to enforce these regulations. This is a very key point. We have a lot of buildings that are being constructed, and some have actually been constructed to completion. When all the building regulations have been flouted, but because of corruption and political interference, these buildings are there. Some are standing, some have collapsed. This is related to also political clientelism, where we have individuals with strong political connections easily getting away with non-compliance, especially on personal property. And then this is made worse because we have the building control teams that we have so far. For example, our building review board and the development committees are severely under-resourced, and their activities are under-resourced. They cannot reach everywhere to exercise all their duties that they would exercise. What can we do? We've seen all the challenges that we have, all the causes that we have, the causes that are the issues that are bringing about collapsing buildings. What can we do to save our people, to save lives and to protect lives? To protect those lives that come to work every day in these buildings, some of which actually live in these buildings. One, the vulnerability of buildings in developing countries could be addressed administratively through enforcement of technical regulations and codes. This is the basic. If we enforce our technical regulations and codes, we can save buildings. However, intervention should not only focus on the adherence to technical regulations, but should address the social, political, and economic conditions and resource distribution challenges that force people to build themselves into disasters. Most of the causes of these building collapses and these shortfalls in the building designs is actually caused by background social, political, and economic conditions and resource distribution challenges. So, in the investigations of building collapses, there is need to look beyond the engineering defects. However, attention should be given to the underlying non-engineering issues that lead to the defects. We also need to protect our developers from substandard materials. Many of our developers may not have access to know exactly what kind of materials or the quality of this type of materials, but we can protect our developers, the investors, from substandard materials through the government institutions that are present. For example, the Uganda National Bureau of Standards. Our building authorities, let us consider instituting phased approval of works by works. If it is a 10-story building, can we have approval of the first 2 floors before we proceed to the next 4 floors? I think we need to look at a phased approval of works so that we do not let a building reach 10 floors, then we come and say, oh, there's a problem here. Let us increase the capacity of bodies mandated to supervise and inspect construction sites. Let us fund them. Key Let us publish reports on building collapses. The same way post-mortem reports are produced when a person dies. Let us publish these reports and let other engineers and building professionals learn from these reports, and let us not repeat the same mistakes on other buildings. And let us also consider providing meaningful and stable financing schemes to prevent piecemeal construction of buildings. To our developers, can we provide them with stable financing schemes that are affordable so that these developers can actually build these, undertake these construction projects fully, not to build a building, not to start constructing a building one floor and then we leave it so that it is affected by the elements of weather, then we continue. Let us prevent this piecemeal construction, and the one way to do this, let our developers be provided with financing schemes that can enable them to construct and execute these developments in full. As we conclude our presentation today, these are key points that we should take home. Unless conscious efforts are made to address the building needs of Africa's urban population, the creation of unsafe buildings is going to continue. In the building process, at every stage, economic and safety considerations usually fiercely compete. If you put the wallet and the safety precautions on a weighing scale, there will be a fierce competition. But however, a right balance needs to be achieved so that the structural integrity of our buildings is not adversely affected. We should not forget that the value of human life is incalculable. It cannot be calculated. Therefore, as built environment practitioners, engineers, architects, quantity surveyors, we have a fundamental, not only fundamental, but divine duty to hold paramount the safety, health, and welfare of the public against all other considerations. The safety, health, and welfare of our clients, the users of our structures, should come before all other considerations. And in this presentation, this is just a first step for all of us to gain a deeper understanding into the under-researched issue of building collapses in cities, in developing cities and developing countries, just like Kampala. And our intention today is to stimulate studies, discussions specific to different towns and conditions. I'll be glad to hear from someone in Fort Portal to tell me the building collapses that have happened there. What are the causes? Are they similar to those that we have seen in Kampala? What about in Gulu? What about in Kabale? Let's go even East Africa. Let's see in Nairobi, Tanzania, in Burundi, in Rwanda. Let us collect all this information together and let us discuss, let us study, let us research so that we can fully exhaust this problem so that we can actually have safer buildings in our cities. Let us save lives with safe buildings. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. As we conclude this presentation, please don't forget to click the like button and to subscribe to this YouTube channel where we got this video, and let us share this video as widely as possible. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day or night, depending on where you are. Bye.